Okay. Oh, yay. We're live. Wonderful. Hello, wonderful land of Facebook. I have one person. All right. To the matters at hand. Okay. I said I was going to come live tonight, and the reason why I did is because, well, to be honest, I wanted to have a conversation rather than just me being some guy ranting and complaining on the internet. There's a old expression, beware the sound of one hand clapping. That entire expression is based on scientific data, debates, things of that nature. Because if there's an argument on one side and they're being loud about it, then surely there's also one on the other side. Hold on. You hear me? How's my audio coming through? Can anybody hear it? Hmm. Anybody in the chat room? Anybody got questions? All right. If anybody can actually hear what I'm saying, because my audio meter doesn't seem to be doing that well, give me a 1. Or just tell me that you can hear what I'm talking about. It's not working well at all. All right, hold on. Check my audio. Okay. All right. Well, somebody can hear me. Good. Yay. All right. Wonderful. All right, guys. So the way that I see it is I'm really trying to be prayerful and be led by the Lord about what I'm going to discuss and talk about, because there's been a lot of things going on over the last few days and over the last couple of weeks that don't bode well as far as our nation goes. And I wanted to get everyone to come on and see what everybody's thoughts were, and try and hash this out. I know what I've seen, and I know the dreams and visions that I've had. Uh, Most recent one was couple. Let's see here. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago. Uh, I had a dream where I was in. It was almost like a coliseum of some sort. You had high pillars, statues, and things like that. But I was walking through, and a statue, the stone started to crack, and it came alive, and it was Ares, the Greek god of war. And it started to chase me. And then once I started to run, 2 more statues came alive, and they were both of Shiva, the Hindu goddess of chaos and destruction. And then a few days after that, I had another dream of the city that I live in erupting into chaos, and it just being very, very bad stuff. Anyone who's actually known me or followed me for a while, the way that I view what's going on in America and the way that I view things that are happening. I believe war is on the horizon, and I think it's inevitable. I think whichever way the country goes, whether Trump remains in power or whether Biden weasels his way in, I think that our country is going to be in a state of civil war. Dogs. And the reason why I wanted to do this and start doing live streams is to give people a chance to network. Because that's the biggest thing that we need to be doing right now. Right now, we need to be joining together and getting to know each other and forming groups that can actually be able to sustain one another and help one another out and survive, which is what the church is called to do anyways. Oh, yay, another person. And I also want to do this that way if anybody had any questions about any of the previous videos I had or anything that's going on, you guys could just ask. So if you guys got any questions for me, feel free to ask away. Doesn't matter what it's about, spiritual warfare, what's going on politically, why I believe things are headed in a bad direction, just whatever you have on your mind, and I'll do my best to answer. Uh, Other than that, I'm going to try to outline the way that I see things occurring right now. Right now, our nation is in a political shift, and I've been reading several reports and getting reports from several patriot groups around the country, and even people that handle, visas and creating things of that nature. There are lots of Americans that are actually fleeing the country right now because they feel tyranny and oppression on a regular basis. They can't even go outside of their homes without feeling it, and that's an actual thing. Anyone who lives in this country right now knows that you can't escape it. There's tyranny everywhere. And the question remains, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to do anything about it? Well, first off, you got to know the facts. I mean, this is tyranny under the guise of medical procedures and the quote unquote good of the people. There's an old expression: the benefit of mankind is always the excuse of tyrants for why they should rule. And that is actually a point of fact. There's even been founding fathers in this country. Let's see, I personally don't. Oh, Patmos Revelation, you're not wrong. I personally don't believe we will ever get back to what it was before this so-called virus, and you're absolutely right. Governments who have risen to power, once they take a right or take power from people, they never give it back willingly. And so that presents us with a problem. What do Americans do? Well, I generally don't advocate for violence unless it's absolutely called for. However, this puts us as Christians in a bit of a pickle, so to speak. We're supposed to be like Christ. We're supposed to follow God's lead, but according to God, there's a time for everything, including a time for war. And as Christians, we are called to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. I love myself enough not to bow down to tyranny and to refuse government oppression and to not live with a boot on the back of my neck. I love my neighbor the same way. So my choice is to take a stand. But in order to take a stand, it has to be done correctly, and we have to know the facts. The facts are all this medical tyranny and government tyranny and even non-government tyranny that you're seeing done by big tech and everything else. There is no scientific or reasonable basis for it. Just like the ritualistic shame muzzles that people are being forced to wear. There is no scientific fact or proof whatsoever that states that those are effective or should be mandatory by any way, shape, form, or fashion. And even if they were effective, there are proper protocols and procedures you would have to do to wear them. And that's something that I had to cover continuously when I did work through for the hospitals. Especially being in the division that I was in. I was a guy, I actually had to know how to operate equipment and stuff to clean and sanitize rooms with highly infectious diseases like rhinovirus and AIDS, HIV, smallpox, even tuberculosis, antibacterial resistant, antibiotic resistant tuberculosis. So I had to know all of the proper procedures, all of the equipment inside and out. And this particular virus is 4 microns. That's the size of it. And those masks, if you read the box, it says does not protect against COVID. And, I probably should stop saying that word because YouTube's probably going to flag it and boot me off the channel. But that's okay. Like I was saying, there's no scientific basis for this. Give an example. I think I gave it on one of my previous videos anyways. But, this particular virus is 4 microns. Your smoke, these masks can't even prevent smoke inhalation. Smoke particles are 12 microns. So if it can't prevent you from having smoke inhalation, how is it going to stop a virus that is, less than, that's a third of the size of smoke? It can't. It's an impossibility. Let's see here. So what do you think? Let's see. What do you think? Food will be the way to crush the people unwilling to comply. How else would the people fight one another but survive? Well, this particular situation is extremely complex. I was reading today a couple of articles and heard from a friend of mine and that is still active duty that the military is making preparations for martial law. Now, regardless of who gets into office or who stays in the office, martial law is an inevitability, I believe. The only way for Trump to remain in power will be to invoke the Insurrection Act and push martial law. However, I don't trust him to not use it to his advantage and try and force the vaccination on people. He's already stated he was going to do that, and so did the military. Joe Biden will implement martial law just because he's looking for an excuse to be a tyrant. Either way, this is going to present civil conflict and problems. And on top of that, you have business owners and the middle class that's being completely shut down and closed out. And but where's the fairness? Churches are forced to close, businesses are forced to close. Yet Walmart, Target, all of these stores can stay open. Yet there's no mandatory distancing. I was just in Costco today doing some grocery shopping. Nobody was no 6 feet apart, and those masks are completely pointless anyways. So you have a lot of local business owners and stuff that are getting to the point now where they're refusing to shut down and they're not going to obey tyrannical government orders. So you're going to see that start to erode and start to go forth too. And it's just like here in Memphis, the cops are under such strain and people are so desperate to be able to feed their families that crimes such as break-ins, robberies, car thefts, things like that have spiked up through the roof and the police can't handle it. So you're being, they will seek to use food to control people, yes. However, that's not going to be the main reason why people are going to fight, I don't think. That's going to have a lot to do with it, especially if famine actually sweeps across the nation. There's an expression, I think your average person is 7 meals away from anarchy and chaos. Once people run out of food in their pantries, they will start to turn on each other and turn on their neighbors. But you also have to take into consideration gangs and their element. They're going to prey on the weak and whoever they can. I wish I could say that a second American Civil War would be clean and simple, such as the original Civil War was. You know, you had the Mason-Dixon line, you had Union, you had the South. This one won't be. This will be multifaceted because you have all sorts of fractures, not just within the government, but within the people. So it's going to be multiple factions vying for power in certain areas. Best advice that I could give anybody, get out of the city if you can. If you can find a good spot in the country or have family that lives in the country where you're far outside of city limits and you can manage to network with them and get supplies and have good storage there and be able to go to that, that's going to be your best part. So here in Sacramento, there isn't a place that I know of here that you can go into a store without a mask. Yeah, and it's like that everywhere that's run by Democrats. Unfortunately, it's getting like that in places that are run by Republicans as well. We have that exact problem here in Tennessee. There's only a few counties here in Tennessee that don't require mask mandates. And our governor, Bill Lee, who's a supposed Republican, has even went as far as here lately saying that if anyone that you see is not obeying the mandates and stuff, you know, for Christmas and holidays and wearing their masks, that you should report them and turn them in. We're living in Soviet Russia and pre-Nazi Germany. You know, it's not right. And the only way that it's going to get better is if people actually join together and rebel. That's the unfortunate thing of the matter. The problem is the Milgram experiment. For those of you who don't know, the Milgram experiment was an experiment run, I think it was during the 70s. I might be wrong. One of you guys might know to correct me. But anyways, what was, you had 2 separate rooms. And in one room, you had a supervisor and a test subject. They would be told, okay, there's an individual in the other room. Anytime you press this button, they're going to receive a shock. And the entire purpose of the experiment was to see how obedient people are just with being prompted, not even with applying force. And the end result of the experiment was only 30% of people roughly actually had the willpower to resist and say no. The other 70% would just willfully and willingly go along with whatever they were told to do, uh, which presents our current dilemma, our current problem. Most people are just good sheep. They don't know how to think for themselves. Let's see here. Becky, I'm sorry to hear about your business. We're having the same problems here in Memphis with the restrictions and stuff that we have. My wife is barely holding on to her salon and actually having that business, and my security company is in the red right now simply because all the businesses are shut down and there's not really any contracts to be had. Anyways, have you guys been keeping up with what's going on in Nashville? Have you seen the most recent reports today? What happens when martial law goes down? Well, to be perfectly honest, when martial law goes down, they don't have enough military to actually be able to lock down uh, the entire nation. So what will happen is it'll happen in certain individual locations. Most of them will be major cities. They'll seek to control transport hubs. Like Memphis would be a target. Places like Knoxville, Atlanta, major cities like New York, and then they will seek to maintain and get a hold of certain assets, food production, weapons distribution, ammunition, things of that nature. There won't be any announcement. Once they decide to declare martial law, the way it'll happen is 1 minute you'll be okay, the next minute you'll see troops rolling in. And like in Memphis, what they would do is they would station troops and blockades on every main access point of the city, interstate, and as many small roads as they could find. And then they would work their way in. So when martial law is introduced, you have to understand at that point they have officially removed the Constitution from its place of power and authority, and it will be a draconian militaristic dictatorship. They will go after anybody that has guns. They'll go after anybody that has supplies, food, water purification, long-term storage stuff, anything like that. My personal recommendation would be in deep prayer. And if the Lord gives you an unction to go, you listen to him. You be obedient. Other than that, I highly recommend having, if you can procure a fallback spot, somewhere that's outside the cities, things of that nature. Store things there. Water, gold, silver, ammunition, arms, body armor, whatever supplies that the Lord's telling you you're going to need to survive. And he will make sure that you're taken care of. Everybody should have a fallback location. If they don't have one of their own, they should be in contact or have contacts that you can trust where you have a plan B, somewhere to fall back to. Do I think you should take your money out of the bank? Me, the only money that I leave in the bank is what's in there to cover bills that are automatically drafted of mine, which I have very few of them. Other than that, I keep my cash on me, or I take my extra, and I invest in gold and silver when I have the extra. And if I do not have just a plethora of extra, then my main focus is long-term storage, food, water purification, guns, and ammo. There are ways to survive in the city. The biggest thing to do is becoming the gray man, learning how to blend in with your environment. You need to know your city inside and out. I'm actually working on a video on how to become the gray man. Although it's not going to be on this channel, it's actually going to be on the company network, the ASOC, which will be opening up and premiering in a couple of days. That's right, Becky. He'll lead you and protect you. He always does. He's not just going to abandon his people. The Lord never does that. But it doesn't hurt to be properly trained and know how to operate in a hostile environment. That's right. That's right, Susie. God is always in control. But like I was saying, all the pieces on the chessboard are being set up right now. Biden's already got everything set up to where he's going to do everything he can to come after gun owners and come after patriots. That's the reason why I've been keeping such a close eye on this situation in Nashville, because I knew that they were going to eventually turn it and use it towards whoever their next target's going to be. I just found out today that the media was reporting that the FBI's main suspicion on the reason why the person did the bombing was because they were a conspiracy theorist and they were scared of 5G. So there we go, another brick in the wall of us being isolated. Train for that. I said, Becky, I'm going to be doing some videos and things on that. Hopefully, I will have some of that stuff uploaded by next week. Do I think that if Biden gets into office short time later, Harris will step in as president? I think it's a distinct possibility. However, you got to understand our government, the way that it's run is just like the Vatican is run. There's an unseen hand that selects who leads and who is going to dominate. I do believe Harris is there for a reason, and I do believe that they know that old slow Joe, it's only a matter of time before he is just mentally incompetent and completely just gone. However, between that time and the time Harris actually steps in and takes over, I think we are going to see full tyranny being implemented. The way he's got it set up, I just found out today that he wants Cuomo, Mr. The vaccine is mandatory regardless of what your religious beliefs are. He's wanting to appoint him as Attorney General of the DOJ, main attorney for DOJ. So they're going to come after guns. They're going to come after any kind of religious liberty. They're going to try and force their medical mandates, even if it's through forcing it through tyrannical law. And they're going to do everything they can to dominate and control the people. He's already got it set up between the big tech companies, the media, and everything else. In his first wave of executive orders, America is swiftly going to be just like Venezuela. The way he's got it set up is anyone that actually speaks out against those in power and everything else are going to be silenced immediately. And since the National Defense Authorization Act, to my knowledge, is still in effect, I wouldn't be surprised that they'll go as far as black bagging people and making them disappear. It's only a matter of time, unfortunately. Now, I'm hoping that I'm wrong about that, but with the way things are going, I don't think that I am. You got to look at it this way. China already owns Biden. They already own Harris. They already own the big tech companies. As a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons why Mark Zuckerberg, gets away with the stuff that he does, because all of his censorship isn't done by an American company. It's done by a foreign company. So technically, American attorneys can't prosecute him for what's done outside of the United States. And you're looking at the same thing going on with Twitter and Google. Matter of fact, the way things are going on YouTube, it's only a matter of time before my channel completely disappears. Fortunately, I do have it backed up and I'm starting to move everything over to Rumble. Once I get everything moved over there, I will let everybody know where to find it. And I'm also going to pick it up on Library and probably a couple more sites. I just got to figure out who and where. Because unfortunately, most of these other ones, one, they don't have an app people can go to that makes it easy for them to actually find what's going on or what I'm reporting on. And so they actually have to physically go to the website, which unfortunately a lot of people don't do that. And a lot of them actually require advertising or require a monthly payment by me to actually give people my content without ads. All right, let's see here. Did I miss anything? Oh, I did miss one. Patmos, again, you're right about that one. The government does want to crush small businesses because that is all part of the global reset that's going on right now. They want to destroy all small businesses. What you're looking at right now is the very real time conversion of a capitalistic economy into a socialist economy, which will eventually be an actual communist overlord dictatorship. About a jet. Well, Biden is right there with the Clintons and everything else. He's in deep with the Brotherhood, just like most of the politicians in DC are. So that's the biggest thing that I try to get people to understand. You're looking at two sides of the same coin. Those that are vying for power and control of America right now. You have those that belong to the Synagogue of Satan, the Jewish order, which is what Trump and his family are involved in. And then you have those that are assets of has come to be known as the deep state, which actually belong to the Brotherhood, which all stems, Babylonian and, actually real Luciferian doctrine. Praying for those who don't see. Mine does too, Susie. That's one of the biggest things I've been dealing with, especially this week. Even my alternate personality is going haywire, trying to warn me about what's going on. My heart breaks because there are so many that are lost and so many that don't see what's happening. But it's also, I've had to come to the acceptance that eventually I will have to fight. War is going to come whether I want it or not. And if war is going to come, I'd rather it come in my time so that the fighting's done by me and not by those that I love and care about, especially not, the little ones that are in my family. All right. Yeah, thank you, P. I'm glad that makes sense to you. That's one of the things that I try to get at every now and then, but I was supposed to have covered that in the Ritualization of America video that I did, but I get ahead of myself sometimes. I'm only human. But yeah, that's what you've been seeing as far as America goes and a lot of the world powers. You have two authorities that are vying for power right now. You have the Synagogue of Satan in Israel, and then you have the Brotherhood. Now, eventually, there's going to be something that happens, an accord struck between them. Now, I don't know if that's going to be before or after the Gog and Magog war, but they're both wanting the same goal. They just see it from different perspectives. All right. Is there any pressing questions that anybody has that they really want me to try to address? I don't care what it's about. I don't care if it's political climate, strategy, survival, spiritual warfare, whatever you guys have at it. That's the reason why I want to do a live stream. That way, if any of you guys had questions, I would, be able to hopefully answer them on the spot. And if for some reason I can't, then I can do some more research and actually do a video on it. That way, you'll have everything you're looking for. All right. Let me do Becky's question first, and then Patmos, I'll come to yours. Will they destroy each other? No. Eventually, there will be a line in the sand, and they will be forced to merge. Might makes right. And what you have to understand about China, the Chinese actually believe that they descended from the dragon. So that is the biggest thing in China. That's the reason why China has been a communist dictatorship and everything else, because communism is Lucifer's chosen form of rule. You have the upper echelon up here. Everyone else is a peasant, and they can be stepped on at will. And that's the same way that it works in Lucifer's hierarchy in the world of Satanism. Might makes right in that world. It's almost mirrors the theory of Darwinism. The biggest lion gets the zebra. So whoever has been there the longest, whoever has the most powerful demons, that's who is higher up on the hierarchy. That's the reason why they don't do drugs, they don't drink, because anything that can divert them or make them weak creates an opportunity for another Satanist to actually attack them and overcome them. Now, as far as that plays out in the nations, what you're seeing here is you're seeing a multi-prong attack on America. It's just like Lincoln, even though he was nothing like the history books portray him as, because it was through him that the actual republic we had ended and democracy was pushed in. He said that we could never be conquered from an enemy without it would have to come from within. And he was absolutely right about that. We have watched the slow and methodical erosion and destruction of our politics, going all the way back to the Soviet Union and the Russians. The Russians infiltrated our government in the 50s, believe it or not. The Democrats murdered the communists, became the Democrat Communist Party. And then you started to see it spread like a cancer throughout the politicians, just like Luciferianism and Satanism. That is the reason why Aleister Crowley, while all of our men were fighting overseas during World War I and World War II, he spent ample time over here in America spreading the gospel of Lucifer. So the grounds are the most fertile they've ever been for civil conflict to happen in American soil right now. And once you see these things start to pop off, once you start to see armed stances between patriots and the ATF, or patriots and military, or patriots and government, or even gangs versus police and things like that, and the Civil War actually begins to become hot and live. Once everybody is fully distracted fighting each other and fighting and worrying about their own survival, then you will see China and Russia come in and try to conquer while everyone else is at their weakest point. All right, Susie, I'll get to yours in just a second. Let me get Petmos real quick. How to survive in a big city. The best advice I can give you on surviving in a big city is to blend. Camouflage is your best option. It's just like, okay, we live in Memphis, Tennessee. Ours is a large city by, Tennessee standards anyways. And ours is also a crime-ridden city. So I have to know my city inside and out, especially someone who does private security, contracting, and things like that here. I will give you an example. I'll give you an example. Let's say let's say I have a contract that's going to be all the way in the downtown area. Okay, and this happens to me on a regular basis. Downtown area is by the river, and that puts a considerable amount of travel between me and my home to actually get here. Now, when I'm on a contract, I'm either, it depends on the type of contract I'm on. So let's say it's a basic uh, asset security contract where I need to be in, my actual gear, my vest, and I need to have my battle belt on, and sometimes even my rifle with me. Okay. I can't very well have that gear on me while I'm running across town. Let's say an event happens, EMP goes off, can't use my car, uh, city's going chaotic, the thugs are running around acting crazy. Uh, I have to know what gangs are which. I have to recognize their signs and what they're doing. And I have to know how to move within my city without drawing too much attention to myself. So, first off, I'm not going to walk through the city wearing my full battle rattle, my vest and all of my equipment. I always keep a bag in my car that has plain clothes in it and has, a concealment holster and uh, enough room in the backpack that I can actually take what other gear I had and actually stick it in there, and I can travel, and walk without looking like I want trouble. I can blend in to the people that are around me. So that's number one. You want to blend into your environment. If the environment you're in has a bunch of people wearing slacks and dress shirts, kind of a business type setting, then you want to mimic that whenever you're traveling. Just like you want to avoid any areas that are going to have large crowds. So the main way for me to get home from downtown would be the interstate. Well, there's going to be a lot of cars and stuff that are shut down on the interstate, and a lot of people that are going to be crowded in that area. So rather than me being around those people, I'm going to want to cut and not take the interstate, but an indirect route. So you need to have a good map. I'm not talking about something on your cell phone. You want one of these. You want a road atlas. All right. And you want to make sure it's an up-to-date road atlas. And you want to know your city and know where the gang territories and stuff like that lie, so you can make it a point to avoid them at all cost. If it's a possibility, if you have to go through one, well, you kind of have to calculate the risk on that and let the Lord lead you through there. That way nothing bad happens, because he's going to take care of you and protect you. Another thing that you would want, you want access to food and water. Those are going to be the two biggest things that you're going to need, because it's only going to be a matter of time before nobody has that. And you're also going to want, you're going to mainly want in a city type environment canned goods and things like that, because you're going to want things that are not going to produce a smell. Last thing you want to do is have everything smelling wonderful and all your herbs and spices cooking that steak on the grill when you're surrounded by a few 100,000 people that haven't eaten in days, sometimes even hours. The actual time that it takes for a city to turn into go completely chaotic, I think, is 12 hours last time I checked. And your odds of surviving trying to bug out decrease drastically with every hour you choose to remain in place and actually don't get out of the city. So camouflage is your best option. Your actual apartment building or your home, you want to give a disheveled appearance. I'm not saying go out there and do it right now. That would be crazy. But once things start to deteriorate and stuff like that, you want your yard to, and your home to be looked over rather easily. In certain areas and places, that would be done by like taking plywood and using that and boarding up the windows. High grass, things of that nature, just kind of letting it go. Like I said, the whole key here is to blend in. You know, if your neighbor's house hasn't cut in like 2 weeks after an event has happened because nobody has gas, well, then the last thing you want to do is be out riding your lawnmower because you had gas that you saved up. That's opening yourself to attack. You don't want to advertise that you have anything that somebody else would want. That's the biggest thing. Is there anything more specific that you were wanting me to actually touch on as far as surviving in a big city? All right. If electricity goes out, it will be chaos. Yes, yes, it will, and that would present another issue going into what Patmos is asking about. Uh, for example, like one of the biggest items you can have for those emergencies is a gas generator or an electric generator or solar panels. Uh, you don't want to have your house lit up like a Christmas tree if nobody else has power. Just like you don't want to be slow roasting a marinated chicken on a rotisserie over your fire pit uh, if the power has been out for days and everyone else is desperate for food. You really need to learn how to cook, not just outdoors, but you need to learn how to conceal the scent of your food, and you also need to learn how to build like fires and things that are not visible to other people. Very cool, Lisa. Very cool. Yeah, y'all should go check out Lisa Fox's company. So that's always a good idea to have. I might even go over there myself after all this is done. All right. Uh, what else? What else you guys needing from me tonight? Did I miss one? That's absolutely no problem. I'm glad to be here. Uh, the way you guys actually came out tonight, I will try and start doing live streams somewhat regularly, once every couple weeks or so. Or if you guys have specific questions or things that you need answered, y'all can always shoot me a message on any of the videos or the email. Which let's see, the email is archangel22@protonmail.com. So you guys can always shoot me questions over there, or you can just message me on Facebook, through the ministry on there, and I'll do my best to answer the questions you guys have. All right. Well, see, we've been on here for about 45 minutes, so if nobody else has anything for tonight, I'll give you all a few minutes in case you have another question. But if nobody else has anything, I will let it go, and we will pick this up on the next live stream. You're very welcome, Patmos. Think the gates of hell will open and evil visibly roam the earth. It already is, and has been for some time. There have been several reports. As a matter of fact, anyone who follows Steve Quell will know of the Kandahar Giant. That the Marines actually encountered over in Afghanistan a few years ago. Oh, I missed a question about the Middle East. I will get to that in a moment. Let me handle this one first. I actually have a friend that was over on the military bases when that event took place. That giant did attack our troops, and it was put down, and its body was shipped to another spot. But these are cases that I follow on a regular basis, and I have personally encountered, creatures and entities that most people have only seen in movies or in their nightmares. So right now, it's like blips on a radar. they're here, you get a ping, and then it goes away. Eventually, however, I do believe that it's going to be fully, full frontal and just in your face. I think that the giants are going to be revealed as well as the fallen ones. Uh, I'm just not 100% sure on the time frame. I think that'll have to do with the Great Deception, to be honest. Uh, Another example I can give you, there was a case happen in, I want to say, Maryland? Might have been Maine, but it was a few years ago. I'm thinking it was 2007, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, there's a family whose house was actually set upon by a pack of what they described as werewolves. I have been meaning to try to get up to that area and actually conduct my own investigation, though I have no doubt in what actually attacked them. The way they described it and everything else from me talking to them, I do believe that they were attacked. I just don't know the reason why. Maybe they ticked off a coven, or maybe they were on grounds, had built a home on grounds that the covens held as sacred or valuable, and they were trying to remove them. Either one is a possibility. I won't know anything else until I actually am able to hopefully get up that way and conduct my own investigation and see if that den is still active. Uh, Now, someone asked about the Middle East a little while ago. Where was it? Current situation in the Middle East. That's a complicated question. Because there's so many facets to the political environment, but it also all ties in with biblical prophecy and end time prophecy. Devil monkeys. Interesting. I always called them something that needed to be killed myself. Uh, the Middle East thing is a complicated situation simply because there's so many politics that are entwined in it. However, I do believe that it is eventually going to lead to the Gog Magog war. Right now, my biggest concern, the thing that I'm watching and have my eyes on most as far as foreign policy and stuff like that goes, is China and Russia, especially their joint military exercises for war against the U.S. Now, there's a lot going on right now between Iran and Israel, too, and I do think that it's going to join into it, and it could be eventually turn into a situation where while China and Russia are fighting America, that Russia and China will also be fighting Israel alongside Iran in the Gog Magog type war. But the problem with that is that will lead to an actual world war type conflict because India and Vietnam are also there as well. Yeah, skinwalkers are nothing to be trifled with as far as the realms of the occult go. However, they, just like every other witch, coven, sorcerer, vampire, werewolf, anything that has a human counterpart to it that is being controlled by a demon, is subject unto the authority of Christ. We just have to know him, walk in his righteousness, and actually be able to wield our weapons of warfare that God gave us. As a matter of fact, if you guys want, the next live stream we do can be specifically on spiritual warfare and dealing with creatures of the night. And actually, probably be a really good live stream. I need to do a video on that and actually provide examples with what I'm talking about as far as mythological creatures that do indeed exist in our realm. If that piques your guys' interest, How would you guys want to do that? Would you rather do that as a live stream type event, or do you guys want to submit some questions and have me answer them in a video? Yeah, the covens are widespread. I mean, they are all over America at this point. As a matter of fact, it's been a miracle that they haven't actually managed to get me in any kind of snares or traps just yet. Truth be told, that is one of the reasons why I'm a security contractor, because it gives me certain legal privileges, especially as far as law enforcement is concerned. All right, either way. Well, like I said, I'm here trying to figure out the best platform. I want to be able to answer your guys' questions. Yeah, the black-eyed. Let's see here. Do a video. Yeah, I could definitely do that. That might be the best way to do it. So, what I'll do is I'll spend the next week, uh, possibly two, because it's a very extensive subject, uh, gathering details and examples for you guys to actually get a hold of, and actual case files that I can use to show what I'm talking about. And I will do a video on it. It'll probably be a pretty long one. It'll probably be at least an hour long, just to be honest. But we can do that, and when it premieres, I can be in the chat and try and answer questions as best I can. Yeah, more than happy to. I said I can do any way that is going to be best for everybody. Because the only thing about doing a video on this subject is unless you guys actually email me and send me the questions and stuff that you would ask or that have popped into your head, it's going to be hard for me to cover all the assets, all the actual aspects of the conversation that actually need to be presented. Because that is very, very, very deep and very, very, very extensive. Uh, I've told my wife repeatedly, and she knows it to be true, that if I took all the knowledge I have on Lucifer and his kingdom, and how it relates to mankind, from the beginning all the way up till now, uh, and the webs and how everything's tied in, I would need a NFL size football stadium for me to actually lay out the spider's web. Hooded person into the bed. Let's see here. Couldn't move. Uh, that's actually relatively simple. There's only two things that it could be: either a demon taking on a human form, trying to present itself as a human, which would explain the paralysis, or a coven member that's demon is actually preventing you from moving. Since they're alone, it would most likely be a solo practitioner, self-styled Satanist. Good news is, in any type of situation like that, the moment that you call on Christ, its power weakens and it has to release you. Demons have to obey Christ. That's the reason why they try to prevent you from speaking during sleep paralysis, because they don't want you to be able to call on his name. You actually hear that a lot happening with quote unquote alien abductions as well. Now, Susie, your thing is, if that should ever take place or happen again, there are certain things that you can do. One's praying around your property and asking the Lord to raise standard of protection around it daily. Uh, Two is, if that does happen, first thing you do is you get your movement back and call on Christ. As soon as you call on Christ, you are going to target the coven member, because what most people don't understand is when a coven member is being used by a demon, whether it's astral projecting, rituals, incantations, things of that nature, they have allowed themselves to become a weapon of the enemy, which places them under our authority through Christ. So basically what you would do is you would command their tongue to be bound and cleave to the roof of their mouth so they cannot speak another unclean word against you. Then you would command that they be bound spiritually, and then you would go after the demon that's allowing them to be there. All right, that stuff can be covered. Best way to reveal the truth about aliens to a mainstream person. Oh dear. That's a loaded question. Biggest problem you're going to have there is just like scripture says, those with eyes to see and ears to hear. Some people are just not going to accept truth. That's the reason why you find in scriptures in Romans 17, I think, where the Lord's talking about what right does the vessel have to say to the potter? Why did you make me as such? It plainly says right there that some are made to display God's glory, others to display his wrath. There is such a thing as absolute evil, just as there is such a thing as someone who is never going to come to Christ. So the biggest thing that you can do is to know the truth and know the facts behind it. In order to do that, you have to have a pretty extensive knowledge on ancient history. And just like Egyptian, you need to have a good handle on Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Babylonian, Sumerian. I would even go with Druidic. Also, I would have a decent knowledge on the Aztecs and the Mayans, simply because each one of these cultures not only talks about the Great Flood, but they also talk about, and there's also, is it the Sioux? There's also a Native American tribe whose creation story closely resembles ours as well. I'll have to get back to you on what tribe that is, because I don't want to misspeak and lead you down the wrong rabbit hole. But once you have a grasp on that history and you can show the examples of how each of these people talks about creatures coming down from heaven and teaching mankind things and such as that, then you can kind of open up a doorway through archaeological fact that will make a dent in their shield that they're using to cling on to atheism and aliens. Yep, that's it, Patricia. Glad you could join us. Yes, prayer is the most powerful. But like I said, knowledge is power as well. Let's see here. Principalities do take dominion over certain parts of the world. As far as America goes, and to be honest, there's multiple principalities that are over this nation. Right now, the two biggest ones that are operating is a spirit of deception, a spirit of fear, and a spirit of witchcraft. Yeah, no problem, Lisa. Lisa, have you read Brother Quell's books, Angels and Aliens? If not, I'd recommend that. That's definitely a good place to start. Spirit is Lust has been here for a pretty good long time at this point. No problem, Susie. Perfect love does cast out fear, and that was my biggest point earlier when I was talking about civil war and the tyranny in this nation and what a Christian should be doing about it. Simple fact of the matter is, we have a duty to resist tyranny. That's the early church did it, and we don't have any right to do any differently. Yeah, Lisa, I definitely recommend that book, and I would also recommend his book, Little Creatures. I was actually working on a book very similar to that one, but Brother Quill beat me to it. Yeah, you're right, Patricia. They do use fear to control. That was one of the things that me and my brother Byron, my other security contractor buddy, were talking about in one of the previous interviews is fear. And I'm actually going to do an entire episode just on that. And I'm going to do two different versions of it. One's going to be for the security company, the other is going to be for the ministry. Uh, because fear in itself, there's two different types of fear. There's fear, which is the human state, which derives from human emotion. And then there is a spirit of fear. The fear that most men feel can be controlled and can be used to your advantage. But once you willingly allow yourself to be dominated by that fear, then a spirit of fear is going to take hold because you've opened up a doorway to it. So yeah, I'm going to do a couple episodes on that for both channels on fear. That way, everyone can learn and be able to recognize the difference between the two. I know you don't have any fear, Sister Patricia. I already know that. And that's good because that's the way that we're supposed to live. And all you guys have been a blessing to me too, Patmos. So we're gonna start doing these live streams more often so we can stay connected. Uh, if any of you guys want to connect with each other, I'm gonna be on here for a few more minutes. So if you want to give each other's, exchange of emails or Facebook or whatnot, so you guys can stay in touch, definitely do that because the more we network and the more we join together as a family in Christ, the stronger we're gonna be. And the more strength we're going to derive from each other. Iron sharpens iron. All right. While everyone's trying to get acquainted with each other, is there any other subjects you want me to cover while everyone's trying to get all this stuff taken care of? All right. Awesome. It's all right, Susie. I have to make myself check mine. I get it. That's it. I said, God bless you all. Thanks, Sis Hagman. You're very welcome. Like I said, any questions or stuff pop up that I need to cover in a video or a next live stream event we do, you guys just let me know. All right, guys. Y'all have a good night. Lord bless y'all. I'll be praying for each of you. You guys stay safe. And I'll have some more stuff coming. And like I said, any questions you have, especially Patmos, if there's more details you want on the gray man thing and how to blend in and survive in the city, you let me know, all right? I will see you guys at the next one. I'm out. Good night.